So this video I'm not sure about. I guess I'm not sure. I mean, I interracial relationships. I have never really had one. I've never really had one. I mean, I've had lots of friends of various kind of everything. But it's a funny thing. It seems like I don't it's such a difficult thing to talk about. I think the United States in particular has a really serious and entrenched type of racism because because I mean our entire history is built on the support of racism. First Native Americans, then slaves. I mean the fact that an entire population of people was introduced to the United States by people who had already usurped it from another population, and that the actual like origin of the history of an entire group of people is based in like the loss of their own history. And this and slavery, I mean the word gets thrown around so much, you know but just in terms, and to the point where people, I think, kind of even treat it in a way that's it's not the full like understanding of what that word means. I think is not necessarily present in people's minds because sometimes awareness can take a wrong turn, and you can throw the word around without and maybe even have some people growing up not really understanding what it means, and having an idea of what oppression means because they can't avoid it, but not to understand what it means to be a slave somewhere is with what that means for what your life is like every day, and to have that have been true for generations of people, and what that says about a place and a mentality. uh I don't how often are people using that word and thinking about the things that it caused and the things that it has continued to cause in our culture. How often do people think about what that really is? I don't know. And it's funny because I don't it then what do you do about situations like interracial relationships portrayed on TV and movies? And I can't say something like they shouldn't be, because that doesn't seem like the right answer. And maybe it's my age, and maybe it's my upbringing, and maybe it's my past that has a I had an interesting reaction. So I'm watching all these kissing clips. Okay, I'm watching all these like videos of, like, after years of being kind of freaked out. I mean, it's the conglomerate doesn't need to tell me anything about myself that I don't already know. I mean, I already see all the signs of aging and all the other stuff. But it's one thing. It's also nothing to be bombarded with the message over and over again about being ugly. But after years of being a little bit stunned by it, I'm sort of just like looking at kissing. I'm like, okay, kissing. Yeah, if the next person who kisses me is not going to get a perfect mouth, but what can you do? It's not like I should put my whole life on hold until the day that I'm young and beautiful again, because that day's never going to happen, right? But yeah, but then one of these clips that I've just seen, it was like it shows this white guy kissing a black woman. And it's not, it doesn't seem like a bad scene. He's not disrespectful. It's fine. It's just that my first thought when I saw it was, if I whether this is right or wrong, I can't say. It was just kind of a thought I had. It's like, if I were a black man and I were sitting in a theater, and I were seeing this scene, I guess my first instinct, whether, and honestly I can't say, I don't know if this is accurate or not, I don't know, because I can't know. My first instinct would be like a form of rage. I don't And it was just my first thought. It was like just real rage, in a sense of just kind of like, I don't know, I don't even know where it's from. I don't know why. It was just kind of, I think my thought would be, how dare you, how dare you touch this black woman? How dare you? And it's wrong. Perhaps it's wrong. Perhaps so, because he's very respectful. It's clearly they're both attracted to each other. She's not resisting. But she's not resisting not resisting out of fear. She's interested. She's attracted. It's like modern, right? But in a way, I kind of had that thought. I was like, just because black people have been treated like they are they have no personhood, you know, and there's just this history of white men just being able to put their hands on black women and to put their hands on black men for any type of activity, from what the white people consider to be sort of friendship, and the black person may not but can't object, to right up to murder. There was just something about it, and there was certainly nothing. There's nothing inherently wrong with the scene. There isn't, and really seems to be something that must be pretty, pretty much in the past few years. It can't be more than 10 years old, that scene. And I've heard that people are getting to be less race sensitive, in the sense of not noticing it so much, and there's more. It's not like these, people, communities are not quite so divided as they used to be. But in a funny way, that really was my first thought. It was kind of just my first thought. If I were a black man and I were watching that scene, my first thought would be, get your hands off that girl. Get your hands off. Like, how dare you? How dare you? I don't. It's interesting because I don't, and I'm not sure why. Because honestly, I know from looking at the scene that there's nothing wrong with the scene. There truly isn't. There really isn't. I know there isn't. I'm not sure, of course I don't have a television, so there's stuff that I'm not seeing, but, it seems there already kind of isn't enough, I think, really isn't, of, just black life, portrayal of black life. And I know that there are people who have tried, and I've talked about it before, and I've, been so, excuse me for not being there for everybody when my life is falling apart. But again, it will never be the thing that I'm able to speak about. All I can ever do is speak about it from an outsider's perspective, trying to have some feeling for it, trying to have some empathy for it, and which I'm only able to do probably because of my own experiences, being stigmatized, and watching the change in people when their perspective of you is something that is overlaid on top of what your life is really like and who you really are. That was huge, being in the hospital and all of that stuff. It's not just about like a victim thing. It changed my perspective on society.